Mr. Matthias Müller is going to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your interest. Yesterday, the Volkswagen Group has made important progress to resolve the diesel issue and the concomitant legal proceedings in the US and towards providing our customers with technical solutions. After months of intensive discussions and efforts, we achieved a fundamental agreement with the US authorities. This is an important step towards winning back the trust of customers, dealers, and the public in the United States of America. We would like to thank all those involved for the intensive work, for the time, and for the many discussions over the past months. Thank you very much. Please bear with us when we do not give you further details today. Why? Because there is still a lot of ground to cover. The further developing and preparing the details requires some time and strict confidentiality. With the fundamental agreement reached in the United States, we see more clearly what financial charges we face from the diesel issue. These characterize the corner data published for financial 2015, published by us today. The negative special items on the operative earnings of the group total 16.2 billion euros. Contained in these are all charges which can be estimated at this present time, particularly those provisions for imminent technical and customer-related measures, buybacks, and legal proceedings. Beyond doubt, the current crisis is a burden on Volkswagen in financial terms as well. However, our figures illustrate that, excluding the special items, we could have talked about a very successful year indeed. Our operations are healthy, remain healthy, and the group is sound. The unique portfolio in this industry, consisting of 12 strong brands, carries us through this difficult phase. I remain convinced that Volkswagen is and remains determined and has the substance to weather this storm with its own resources. More on this will be communicated on our annual press and media conference next Thursday. And on that note, let me pass the floor to Dr. Porsche. Thank you, Mr. Müller. Ladies and gentlemen, last fall we promised to clear up the questions surrounding the diesel matter. The Supervisory Board and the Board of Management stand by this promise, as I do personally. The extensive external investigation being carried out by the law firm Jones Day, as commissioned by the Supervisory Board, is already far advanced and is being pursued intensely. To date, around 65 million documents have been submitted for electronic review. Of these, a total of more than 10 million documents have been forwarded for review by Volkswagen's lawyers. Around 450 interviews have been conducted on the diesel matter. Mr. Müller has just addressed the progress made in the talks in the United States, have their impact on the announced publication of interim results on the status of negotiations in the diesel matter. Such a disclosure at this point would entail unacceptable risks for Volkswagen and can therefore not take place at the present moment. This decision is based on the assessment of the US law firms retained by Volkswagen, Sullivan & Cromwell and Jones Day, which have both independently of one another strongly advised against such a publication. We regret that we have to move away from our original plan to disclose interim results of the diesel investigation by the end of April. However, such a publication of necessarily preliminary interim findings would not only put at risk the complex and confidential settlement negotiations, but also possibly affect the current inquiries being conducted as part of our investigation of the facts. Individuals who have yet to be questioned could align their statements with the contents of the interim report, and this is something we wish to and must avoid. Let me be absolutely clear. Everyone involved is committed to clearing up the diesel matter fully and relentlessly. We continue to unwaveringly work towards this goal, and based on the current assessment, Jones Day expects the investigation to conclude in the fourth quarter of 2016. Both the Board of Management and the Supervisory Board assume that a comprehensive presentation of the facts which were subject to the review will be published as a so-called Statement of Facts in the US. As soon and insofar a comprehensive settlement is reached with the Department of Justice. I thank you for your attention, and I would like to pass the floor to Minister Weil. Minister President Weil, ladies and gentlemen, extensive negotiations lie behind us. They were overshadowed by the diesel issue, and the figures you have heard express the fact that this is taking its toll on the annual financial statement. The results of our meeting are, to my mind, a progress indeed, because with this annual financial statement, those risks that stem from the exhaust emissions issue are covered, so that the group can look ahead on that basis, now again in commercial terms. The diesel affair has triggered a discussion which is very much on the tops of our minds, which is board remuneration for financial 2015. Both Supervisory Board and the Board of Management had to weigh the merits of the justified public expectations and existing contractual obligations on the other hand. Both had to be forged into one joint result, and I believe I may say that we have found an adequate solution for this. I have to state at the outset that the board member remuneration system for Volkswagen executives is based on a long-term remuneration system. Intentionally, this is not just based on one financial year, but because of financial accounting strategies, remuneration could be influenced if this weren't long-term, which is why it is. Which is the reason why in the board remuneration for 2015, very good years, commercially speaking, are reflected. 2015 itself is not part of the successful financial years, particularly when it comes to the variable component of executives. It plays a minor role. This is one thing which is important to bear in mind. And the very bad year, financial 2015, will have its repercussions on the next years, which the board remuneration is based on. So this is also something which you need to bear in mind. This 1 year is not over and dealt with yet when it comes to board remuneration. It will have its repercussion into the future. So a system-imminent, clear reduction of the variable remuneration component ensues. And the second step is to react to the very special situation in financial 2015 when it comes to board remuneration. I can report that 30% of the variable remuneration, which corresponds to round about just under 1 million euros, are retained. This amount is not paid, but converted into virtual shares, phantom shares. And the payment, depending on the share price, will only take place at the earliest in 2018. the total retained amount is only paid out if in the year 2018 we find that a share price target of 125% is reached. So the target agreement is that the share price, which seems to us to be clearly too low, recovers its value and increases at least 25% increase in 3 years, then the retained amount can be paid out. If that is not achieved, then the retained amount is kept in for the long term. And if the company is doing better commercially speaking, then the surplus amount can be paid out. And we hope for that situation. In 2014, an ordinary member of the Board of Management that worked for 2 years on the board got a remuneration of around about 5.3 million euros. This reflects the particularly good earnings situation during these years. In 2015, then, that remuneration will be cut to 3.225 million euros, and of these, another million is kept back or retained, so that all told, for 2015 now, an amount of only 2.2 million euros is paid. Of course, that is a number of figures, but by doing this calculation, I can express that 57% cut of remuneration compared to 2014 are paid out. Those are the amounts which are paid out now. The 1 million euro which is retained will remain to be seen in 2018 in the light of the share price development and as a function of the share price target of plus 25%. The target we link with this, and the rationale behind that is to express that when it comes to board remuneration, is the difficult situation that the company is in at the moment will be a passing situation. If that is achieved, then that will be to the advantage of everyone involved, also for the members on the Board of Management. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this proposal is adequate, is justified, as it takes up what the general public has rightfully set forth in terms of question. It is the result of intensive negotiations. It shows an adequate way by both the members of the Board of Management and the Supervisory Board to deal with a problem which was not easy to deal with and to answer. So I remain satisfied with the result of today's negotiations. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday and today, a number of instrumental decisions were taken which have a bearing on the future of Volkswagen. This particularly refers to the decisions of the US, and I'm referring to the decisions of the US authorities. We believe that this opens the path towards Volkswagen's future. I'd particularly like to thank Dr. Garcia Sanz and his team for their commitment during the negotiations in the US. With the Works Council and our teams, we will do everything in our abilities to master the financial challenges, ensuring that the company is ready for the future in terms of new powertrains and digitalization. We are confident that Volkswagen is going to leave the crisis stronger than it entered it. The board remuneration, after long and difficult negotiations, we found a difficult compromise, which was a result of the business expectations and the overall situation of the company as a whole and existing contractual obligations. Against this backdrop, we feel it is right to pay only a low, very small dividend to the shareholders. In these days, the overarching rationale is to take Volkswagen out of the crisis while maintaining jobs and preparing the path for the future. In the current crisis, we need the anchor shareholder, Lower Saxony, and co-determination. Both traditionally are focused on the interests of the company just as well as keep bearing in mind the justified interests of the workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard it from the previous speakers. Today, many important topics and decisions were on the agenda of the Supervisory Board. As chairman of that body, I'm particularly pleased to be able to state that although There might be different opinions, approaches, and controversial discussions on that path. At the end, there are always fair and adequate compromises. The resolutions taken today, and we all agree on this, are in the interest of the company. And this is what we are working towards as we stand before you here today, always and without reservation. We all are aware the Volkswagen Group is in a difficult situation. As a better, stronger company, we will only leave that situation if we all work in the same direction. Today's meeting has shown again that everyone involved is willing to do that. The ability to compromise, the will to achieve a balance of interest characterizes this company. This is one of the big strengths of the Volkswagen Group. Both Supervisory Board and Executive Board, the shareholders and employees are all united by the firm will to overcome the present situation. Together we drive the clearing up of the diesel issue with diligence and unwaveringly. Together we work towards setting the course during the coming months for a sustainable, successful development of our company, the Volkswagen Group. I remain firmly convinced that we will be successful in doing that. Thank you for your attention.